take root in a firm way. So we say that this was the moment when the kind of symbols of Buddhism arrived in Tibet, but we can't say that Buddhism was really flourishing or really strong. And so then about the reason why it was hard for Buddhism to take root in Tibet is because about 400 years earlier, the first Tibetan king, Nyatri Sempo, had, during his reign, the Bön tradition, like the indigenous Tibetan religious tradition, had been really firmly established, and the Bön tradition, the relationship between the Bön religion and the king or the emperor of Tibet was kind of firmly established from the very beginning of Nyatri Sempo's reign. And so, because of the influence of the Bön tradition, Buddhism really didn't become like a solid religious force in Tibet until the time of Emperor Trisung Detsen. So he's the 35th ruler. So if you remember, Lhasa Torin Yentsen is the 28th. So you can see there's about, I guess, about 7 generations in between. And so that's in the middle of the 8th century. So in the 700s, we have the Emperor Trisung Detsen, and it's during his reign that Tibet really becomes a Buddhist country, that Buddhism really starts to flourish in Tibet.
야다 제사디다 비교 나고디한테네 티베 첨부를 로고와레 지다 상아도스 티바레네 디냠네 컨디션은 가 처음에 좀 배네 인지미지 잔줍선데메나 아니 리리드게 마스네 디 작람메라고 지레 아니 딜람드라마 잔줍선도 조치고요레 잔줍선에서 내가 드리키라 계절 가르치나 개화체베나 룽아기 개화 가르체베나 룽아 예수미 그 참말로 자주스 뭔들어라 아니 로고야 아니 무식하야 되냐면 예수 대한테네 뭐라서가디야 자주스 그 지스는 뭐가 쳐고야 정말 예수 상만 자주스 게 되네 이 조스미야다 속신도 보디 그래서
So that's the history of like the early translation period in Tibet. The first spread of the Dharma to Tibet is in that period. So in general, when we say that Tibetan Buddhism, the Tibetan tradition of Buddhism is Mahayana, what we mean is that whatever practice you are doing, even tantric practice, you must have bodhicitta as a part of that, and your practice must actually start with bodhicitta. So if you don't have bodhicitta, then it's like trying to have a train without having a track. You know, there's no, your train is just derailed. So the bodhicitta is incredibly central, incredibly important. And so whatever virtuous deed you are engaging in with body, speech, or mind, whichever of those three, any type of virtuous deed has to begin with bodhicitta. Bodhicitta has to come first. And so we also talk about the beginning of the practice, the middle of the practice, and then the conclusion of the practice. So again, we have to have bodhicitta in all three of these. But particularly, we start with bodhicitta, but bodhicitta has to be there in the main part of the practice and at the end with the dedication as well. So bodhicitta really, we can say, is like the life force of your practice. It's like the, you know, inside a Buddha statue, you put this, we call it like the life force column, maybe. That piece of wood that goes, like the central channel of the Buddha statue, that is bodhicitta. So bodhicitta is like that central support for you as well.
다디 당도 지금 당고 연주상에 되는 동안에 있어야 되고 제 아니면 통한 전주선발에 투신 그런 상계 샤기도 등이야 전주선발 중심 그래서 상계 샤기 등이 디 나로 남달 먹으지요 봐 그런 저게 봐서 지신라서 저게 다 당보디 전주선 통한 통해야 될 상계 되는 깨럽지기 나는 예외 유도 아니 걔는 힘든 전제 로건이 신념부 되는 힘든 콜로직 댄스 얘네 유튜브 로건이 신다코다 테마토바 테마토가 강해시 위치에가 아니 공기 예벨랭긴들 가수와서 다코 육쇼 닝제 ngai nye thegi ins de 닝지지 계제 디 총부와 디 총도 nyewe lengen di ni tho ji ge sarwa de da tho ji ko le hyu na sange tema ta de ne tho ne ani ya la yu di ya ge ba ta de ji di thangma di sange 좀 den de ge thangma chen ju bisan 당보 총부 di so wa thangma 당보 de da de na sing nam da ma go ju sange 좀 den de thi ya de ne 통화 제주 선발에 통시스 인데 제제는 리버리버 제주 선기에 상계디 중요해서
So now up till here we've been discussing the first line of the verse about how the hearers and solitary realizers are born out of the Buddha, born from the Buddha. And then, if we turn to the second line of the verse, it says that the Buddha, Shakyamuni, is born from bodhisattvas. So, actually, the Buddha himself then, from which the hearers and solitary realizers are born, the Buddha himself is born from a bodhisattva, from bodhisattvas. And so there are many stories we can look at. There are many histories of the Buddha's previous lives when he was a bodhisattva, but the first the first moment in which he generates bodhicitta, that is a particular lifetime where the Buddha was born in hell, and he and his companion were supposed to be kind of dragging this cartwheel along, and it was extremely heavy and difficult, and his friend just couldn't do it. It was just too heavy, and he saw how much difficulty his friend was having in dragging this cart. And so eventually he said, "Oh, just forget about it, I'll do it." And so he kind of told his friend to stop, and he would take over. Okay.
Driving
Oh, no. That's right. So they're pulling the cart, and so he couldn't. His friend was just having so much difficulty. It was so heavy, such hard labor. He told his friend, "Just forget about it." And so I will do it. And at that moment, basically, he gave rise to bodhicitta in the middle of hell, and so. When he did that, there was a flash of lightning, and immediately the Buddha, the future Buddha, died.
The tattoo yomarwa, and konyewe na mi lenke yorwa. Kyola judo maje kansi ko tawla, and ko sange jumde gol toshu yorwa. Toshu ne shi yorwa. The yakiwe di. Or this sange is chanjusem tawikiwe namdardi. So not a flash of lightning, but rather one of the guards in hell got angry because he said, "This isn't your business. That your friend is supposed to be pulling this cart. It's not your business." And so he hit the Buddha over the head with a hammer, and the Buddha died. And so he immediately died, and then immediately was reborn in the heavens. Because this was the first moment where he gave rise to God realms.
That's right, in the God realms, and this was the first moment where he gave rise to bodhicitta in any of his lifetimes, and so this is the history of the lifetime in which he gave rise to bodhicitta for the first time, and from that time forward, then there are many records of the other lives that he took. And we see how his bodhicitta developed lifetime after lifetime.
제가 디나 자주 쌤디 기야디 규견 소도와 규견 조 소교데 디야 가르스나 콘 닝지지 기베 규될 때문에 엔 자주 쌤디 기베 와 그래서 디사기 좀 된데 최기 닝부들 사기 좀 된데 최 먹고 송요데 에네 Golo, I get you, Golo ship, Shada, and Garsone, and the Sangi, you Pumu get Shado, and then I can go put the Galhaz. That day you're the Nimbul Yumbu Cuba, any good again, so we are Benji Junk Church, so we are Gulo Gowakai, ba. Get your take songs, and a good old young Roya, and a Tibagia message, Gelson Sobat, Rangason, this and that. There's someone like Gusuya. Karachan Tibagia message, Suya. And Tibach have a deep yangi, doing it you are what I send it down and Kaja, another Lam Madra, yes, how much Sangamagi, make away Gucci. This one's Tibagia matches, doing you or that they want to go in a Gavasum Sovereign. I did send it and then other Lamdra, Gangalo, and Lamlo, they were giving us Hama, T. Pangela, and giving it to Brazil. Didn't I think Chanju sent the and did that was it there? Gave us Ninjisen, Chambers, and Indijig Tone, any Sankation the Yumura. That's all the Sankation they should that dinner and then Chanju seemed to be in that day. And it's all that you did. You did, but good at it with Sumbia.
So, when we talk about bodhicitta, then we want to talk about what are the causes and conditions of bodhicitta. If we're going to develop bodhicitta, we need to understand the causes and conditions of bodhicitta. So, basically, the cause of bodhicitta is developing compassion. So, when we develop compassion, then out of that, bodhicitta will arise. And so, bodhicitta then thinking about causes and conditions then is really the essence, the very like essential point of the Dharma that the Buddha taught. So, he taught for like 45 years, and we say that he taught 84,000 different teachings, and we have these vast collections of scriptures and so forth, but the essence of all of these teachings is about causes and conditions, causes and results, or interdependence, we say, interdependent origination. So there's this famous phrase where we say that the Buddha taught the causes and the cessation of those causes. And also we say you can sum up the Buddha's teachings as do no sinful deeds, do perfect virtue, and tame your own mind. This is the teaching of the Buddha. So again, this verse 2 is indicating that what the Buddha taught in its very kind of basic level is causes and results. So why? Because if we say do no sinful deed, what we're saying is don't perform the causes and conditions of suffering. So if you engage in non-virtuous actions, then you're going to have suffering from that. The result of that is going to be suffering. So everything in our life that doesn't go the way we want it, all of our failures, all of our hardships, all of that is due to negative deeds that we have done in past lives. And so therefore the Buddha said, don't do that. Don't do sinful deeds. The same thing, if you want to have happiness, if you want to bring about happiness, then you need to practice perfect virtuous deeds. And again, everything that goes right in our lives, all of our successes, all of our happinesses, all of our comforts, all of these things are due to virtuous deeds that we've done in the past. And so the same thing goes for bodhicitta. Bodhicitta comes out of developing a virtuous mindset, developing a compassionate mind, developing a loving mind. And so from these qualities, then the Buddha arises. So this is why bodhicitta is so important in terms of, in the context of the Buddha Dharma, bodhicitta is really essential. But even bodhicitta, we can say, comes down to this topic or this point of causes and conditions. causes and results.
제가 규다 다산계 준대디 군대 고시 뒤지나다 다조 님부디 댄징진중 만도베 쇼가이바 마이나 대신 동이 만도베 쇼가이바 마이나 소야 조들이 디고 지카시 쉬나 삼소 아니 댄징진중 당가라서 치유기 가서 뭐고 다토야 유비 가서 미토야 유바 라베 유야 유바 지겨워 다 이게 다 토야 유바 이게 참으로 유대 경기 ane tenne chig tenne dewa chungba gyama do kora rangsuk thuba ji ga ma le so pe sha sha na ma zu motor ba ta motor di chala khyon de be tongda ni ru che ne ane motor cha ba ma do ji rangsing do ko ji cha yo ma ane ko thula mong ji thula tongda ni ru che ne ma do cha ba 이내 코모드 가요를 세서나 세요 말다 대신 동니 마도 저거 요코 랑신 승에니까는 아니 단다디 댄징진 중에서 군디서 상군수 부셔셔요 봐 지금 댄데 대화셔데 군수 부셔셔 나 텐다 뭐마데 텐다 그거 시에나 오늘 가요를 주고서 세요 말은 맨날 모터 승에는 가만도 대화가 봐 ane kolo paki, sushi de pate, engine pate, dinang, rula samolo pate, tongda jik digal ma, tongda ni ting sana, ta motor kiki kira zu sana zu sa yo marwa, zu yo marwa. Sasa motor kore yang tuya yo marwa. Di sangye chue sama di re tene, ngaran zu mi toya yo su yo dige di, ane pena kayu di cha sha me na o sa ji ne tu yo de, sa di sa ga do de mi ko de. को सासों ना सासा दी ने सुरुरु सुचु दे लागो सोदा सु ने मेलटा ने रमोटिन मंगुचा ने खाप छाइबा इने को दी 참으로 군수부터는 기계된데 뭐 투신 규칙이 이다 치유가 토야 예가 라버트가 요데 이네 꼭 뭐도 그거는 뭐만 가야서나 아니 그 치능주 참지 그봐 지금 저번도 소소 나오고부터네 랑수 투버 줘야 말아. 나 동반이 소비하래. 어디 저 상만로다 디토네 네 로고요 봐.
So, in thinking about causes and conditions, when the Buddha taught about causes and conditions, he generally, we call these teachings the teachings on interdependent origination. So if we think for a bit about interdependent origination, this topic, here, if we start by thinking about outer phenomena, things that we can see with our eyes, things that we can touch with our hands, we say that all of these things are interdependently arisen. What that means is that they arise due to the coming together of causes and conditions. So they arise in dependence upon each other. They are interdependent. It means they do not have any independence. They do not have any autonomy. They cannot exist on their own in a vacuum. They're completely dependent on other causes and conditions and other phenomena all at the same time. So one example is if you take like a car or an automobile, there's something like 2,000 different parts that go into a car. So if we ask, what is the nature of a car? Well, basically it's 2,000 different parts that come together. And then we point at that, we say that's a car. But what is the essence? What's the essential nature of a car? If we search for that, we can't find like the essential part of the car. We can't find the car-ness anywhere. And so we say, therefore, the nature of the car is that it's interdependently arisen. That it is the coming together of all kinds of causes and conditions. So this is on what we call the conventional or relative level of phenomena. But ultimately, on the absolute level, point at the car. There's nothing you can point at. What is an ultimate car? There's nothing that we can find and say this is a car. So again, if we take this car and you take away the wheels, and then you take off the steering wheel, then you take away the engine and so forth, and you lay out all of those 2,000 parts, and lay out all of the 2,000 parts, where's the car? What are you going to point to and say this is the car? If someone says point to the car, there's nothing you can point at. You can't even call that a car. It's just a collection of parts. So when the Buddha says that phenomena are interdependently arisen, this is the same thing. This is what he's saying. That these things that we see with our eyes, these things that we can touch with our hands, that actually there's no independent essence there. So we can also take the example of a cup. You know, this cup starts as clay. You have to send someone to go find the clay, someone has to dig the clay, then someone has to mix it with water, make it, maybe add other things, make it the right mixture, then someone has to shape the cup, someone then has to dry it and fire it, then you have to decorate it, and only after all that do you get a cup. So these outer phenomena on the relative or absolute level are all completely dependent upon causes and conditions coming together, coinciding. But then what is their essential nature? What is the essence of these outer things? The point is that they appear, outwardly they appear, but actually they don't have any independence, they don't have any autonomy, and for that reason we call them emptiness. That all phenomena are like this. So when we talk about emptiness, then in the context of bodhicitta, emptiness is what we refer to as absolute or ultimate bodhicitta. So all of the other teachings given about bodhicitta are relative or conventional bodhicitta. So now we come to the third part of the verse that we started with. We were talking about indivisible or non-dual compassion and bodhicitta. So, so when we think back to the Buddha's lifetime in hell, and when he sees his friend being unable to pull this cart, he develops compassion. He feels this compassion arises in him for his friend. And then that compassion is also an altruistic wish to benefit his friend. This altruistic bodhicitta. And so the point is that compassion and bodhicitta are non-dual, that they are not two different things. And so that compassionate thought is bodhicitta, bodhicitta is compassion. And so compassion, we say, is the impulse or the wish to benefit compassion is the wish to remove the suffering that sentient beings are experiencing, to liberate them from suffering. So when you develop compassion, the object of your compassion is sentient beings, and you develop compassion for them, then you are trying to liberate them from suffering. The wish to benefit them, or the method that brings them benefit, that aspect is called bodhicitta. So there's no, the point here is that compassion and bodhicitta are not two different things. They are not divisible, they are indivisible. And furthermore, this bodhicitta that is indivisible with compassion is the cause of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It is the cause for all of the Bodhisattvas from which they are born, from which they arise.
지금 개발 지대성 공단 지금 그 유기 다수 등의 개발 근대성 여성 찬주성 거대야 아니 권냠래나 도변구지요 찬주성 동구지 이나라 참된 인지 따볼라 현뱅기 규도 맞지않나 통람이 구지면 좀 sem모르들의 내들서 참바다 인지디 아니 달배샤 냥아가 나와 달배샤 다고서 앙타보시 다뷰다베가라 다앙타고 다규야들 찬주선 배샤 디규베가라 아니 미가로 다앙타고 터면 미가로 미마상으로 때문에 가수다 렉수체 아니 땅마 더비야다 디 대배샤도와 어디인지 아니 찬주선디다 참반닝지 다수샤 다규야디 앙타올레아데 찬주선 배샤 어디다 오지 담마주나 미마상으로 가수 렉소 다 땅마때 차가때 토그마데 디인지 아니 최 상만로 당도 공원도 찬주선 예소와
So Lord Jigten Sumgun, who is the founder of the Drikung Kagyu lineage, the Drikung Kagyu school, he has a like a song of realization in which he has a verse about bodhicitta, and he explains bodhicitta like this. He uses a metaphor, and he says that loving kindness and compassion, if the horse of loving kindness and compassion does not win the race with bodhicitta, then it won't receive the blue ribbon in the marketplace, sort of. It won't take first place in the marketplace. So therefore, you should be diligent. You should emphasize the practice of bodhicitta. So what he's saying is the metaphor works like this: the horse is loving kindness and compassion. So he's kind of comparing loving kindness and compassion to a racehorse. And the way that the horse is going to win the race is bodhicitta. So coming in first place, that is bodhicitta. So if you want to get, in other words, if you want to come in first place, if you want to be, decorated with the garlands and the ribbons and all of that of winning first place and have all of the praise and, and that moment in the middle of the marketplace, if you want everyone to be, clapping and cheering for you, that horse of loving kindness and compassion needs to apply bodhicitta. That's how it's going to come in first place. That's how it's going to win the race. Therefore, Lord Jigten Sumgun says bodhicitta is really like the first step of any Dharma practice. It's the preliminary practice to all Dharma practice.
이 타다 조차기 지금 간데서 저와 간데나로 찬주선 이담 차게 전부 라마 구시주야 뭐와 제가요. ялангабудинан 당부등원로디 찬주선이에서.
So we also have this teaching known as the fivefold Mahamudra. So in the practice of fivefold Mahamudra, the five limbs or 5 points of Mahamudra are first bodhicitta, then yidam deity meditation, then Mahamudra, then the 4 kayas, so the 4 bodies of the guru, so guru yoga, and then the 5th one is dedicating the merit. So in these 5, then the preliminary, or the very first one is bodhicitta.
저는 이 순굴나라 다소 가르소서 전다 숨송과 참바승이지 닝지승이지 찬주승이지. 이달에 공기 자라나마 롱고 파운드가 순가래. 근데 가르소서 참바승이지 사시다고 인스. 참바사시다고 그래. 이날다 전부링이나 게임 가리 있는 참모나 계세배사 참바데 배마세레기 때문에 사 힘부터 아니 닝지디 추다고 아니 추디 좀보다 되다고기 니 야고스 톱사나 아니 참반 닝지 이나가 아니 찬주 셈 준신디 아니 야고스 깨토です아니 찬주 셈기 준신디 야고 깨서나 내 가능성들은 대부디 아니 구숨기 되고 상계 구숨 되고 그래서 상계 구숨 대부디 랑정 상계 추구다 현재 로부다 아니 두고 구숨기 되고 요래 어디 인도된 디나다 색디 소수야의 찬줍sem이 계산하는 규스 야와사의 제원의 통야 규 대부 구숨 통야 되게 디 찬줍sem이 해야 되네 잡아다 닝지 네 기고야 돼서
So in this song that of Lord Jitesungen, he talks about three things. He talks about loving kindness, compassion, and then bodhicitta. And so, thinking about these three things as well, Lord Jigten Sunggun's own root teacher, Pagmo Drupa, also has a verse in which he talks about them as follows. So he explains that loving kindness is like the ground. So it's, if you think about like a field or the earth in a garden, it's the ground. No, sir. And so if you want to plant something, this is you plant it in loving kindness. Then compassion is like the water that you use to water the field. And when you have these two together, loving kindness and compassion together, the soil and the water together, then allow the plant of bodhicitta to grow. So the plant then is bodhicitta. And then this plant is going to fruit. You know, the fruit of the plant is the three kayas of the Buddha. So the three bodies of a Buddha. And specifically, this refers to the Dharmakaya, or the Dharma body, which is arises out of accomplishing your own aim, your own benefit, and then the Nirmanakaya and Sambhogakaya bodies, which arise out of accomplishing the benefit of others. And so together, these are the three bodies of a Buddha, the three kayas. And so if we go back to our verse, we say that the hearers and solitary realizers are born from the Buddha. The Buddha is born from bodhisattvas. And bodhisattvas, it says, loving kindness and compassion are the source out of which, or the place from which bodhicitta and thus bodhisattvas are born. So the kind of the source of all of these beings is loving kindness and compassion. It comes down to loving kindness and compassion.
흉루 토네마 예와 체비나 이 군수 찬주선다 전담 찬주선 다 전담 찬주선 다 이게 되는데